If you're in your 20s or 30s staring at crazy rent prices and wondering how anybody in your generation is actually buying a home, this is for you because there is a very specific way a lot of people are getting in the game faster, and they're not starting with a cute single family home. They're starting with a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex, and they're using owner-occupied financing to house hack. You live in one unit, your neighbors rent the others, and their rent helps offset your payment. So instead of your entire paycheck going to a landlord, a big chunk of your housing cost is coming back to you as income. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how that actually works using FHA, VA, or low down payment conventional loans, what lenders really look at, the lifestyle trade-offs that nobody tells you about, and a super simple way to run the numbers so that you can see if this is even realistic in your market. So if you've ever thought there's no way I can afford to buy where I live, stay with me because this strategy might be the shortcut that you've been looking for. Now, before we talk any loan names, let's zoom out and talk about the core idea of house hacking. You're essentially turning your first home into a micro business. You're not just asking, can I afford this place? You're asking, if I live in unit A and I rent out unit B and C, how much of this payment do the tenants realistically cover? That mindset shift alone is huge because it forces you to think like an owner, not just a renter. Here's what that looks like in real life. Imagine you're paying rent every single month to live in a one-bedroom apartment. With a small multifamily, you might move into a slightly less perfect unit, maybe a smaller owner's unit. Maybe you share a wall with your tenants, but in exchange, you have 2 or 3 other units that are paying you every single month. Even if they don't cover the entire mortgage, shaving a large chunk off of what you're responsible for each month, that can completely change your trajectory. So how do you actually finance this without being a millionaire? Let's start with the 3 main buckets that people use. There's FHA loans, VA loans if you're eligible, and there's low down payment conventional loans. With FHA, you're looking at a government insured loan that's designed for owner occupants. The key word is owner occupant. You have to intend to live in one of the units as your primary residence. Lenders look at your income, your credit, your debts, and they can often give some credit for the rental income from the units that you're not living in, depending on how it's documented and what the guidelines say. A very real example, if Unit 2 and Unit 3 can bring in market rent, your lender might use a portion of that projected rent to help you qualify, which can make a more expensive property suddenly fit within your numbers. With VA loans, if you have VA eligibility, this can be an absolute cheat code. VA allows eligible buyers to purchase 1 to 4 unit properties as long as you live in one of the units, and there's no monthly mortgage insurance, which keeps the payment more manageable. Again, the lender can often use rental income from the other units in your qualification, but we'll want things like a solid appraisal with market rent estimates and a clear plan for how those units will be rented. For low down payment conventional loans, you're still in owner occupied territory, but we're playing in the conventional space. This is often where more analytical buyers like you start weighing trade-offs, maybe slightly stricter debt to income requirements, maybe different mortgage insurance structures, but sometimes more flexibility with the property itself, and in some cases, how the rental income is viewed. In all 3 cases, here's what's really happening behind the scenes. We're looking at your total monthly debts, we're including an estimated mortgage payment on the property that you're buying, and then we're asking, does this fit inside an acceptable range compared to your gross monthly income? That's your debt to income ratio. If you're used to watching Bigger Pockets or YouTube breakdowns, you probably heard numbers thrown around, but in practical terms, it means this. If your gross income each month is say X, and your student loans, car payment, credit cards, and this new mortgage altogether add up to too big a chunk of that number, we have a problem. Where house hacking helps is that some of that rent can be used to reduce the pressure on the ratio. That's the magic. Now, let's talk gritty details because this is where most people either win or tap out. First, the property has to qualify, not just you. FHA and VA in particular have condition standards. That rough around the edges fourplex that you found on a listing site might be perfect for a seasoned investor, but if it has major peeling paint, safety issues, or obvious deferred maintenance, it may not fly with certain appraisals. So in reality, we're targeting properties that are structurally sound and safe, even if the finishes aren't fancy. Second, the rent numbers have to be realistic, not fantasy. On paper, it's easy to plug in top of market rent and assume every unit is full all year, but in real life, you want to be conservative. Ask, what are similar units actually renting for right now within a half mile to a mile? What happens if one unit is vacant for a month out of the year? Can you still comfortably cover everything from your income without panicking? This is where people either fall in love with the spreadsheet or they get scared away. Third, you're gonna have to be honest about the lifestyle trade-offs. You might hear your tenants through the wall. They might knock on your door when the sink leaks. You may have to learn how to screen tenants, read a lease, decide whether pets are allowed, and keep a maintenance fund for things like water heaters and appliances. For a lot of people in their 20s and 30s who are already in the side hustle mindset, this actually fits. You're adding mini landlord to your list of roles in exchange for potentially thousands of dollars a year in housing savings and equity growth. For others, that sounds miserable, and that's okay. Better to realize that up front. So how do you know if a specific property is worth closing? Here's the simple mental framework that I use with clients. Step one, get an estimated total monthly cost from a lender for that property using an owner-occupied loan structure. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, plus any mortgage insurance if it applies. Step two, get a realistic rent estimate for each non-owner unit, preferably from more than one source: online data, local property managers, or current leases if it's already rented. Step three, add up the rents that you're likely to collect and compare that to the total monthly cost. Then ask, if everything goes as planned, how much of this payment do my tenants cover? Then ask, if one unit is vacant, what does that look like? If in the everything goes as planned scenario, your out of pocket is similar to or even a modest increase over what you're already paying in rent, and you're okay with the responsibilities, that's when house hacking starts to look very compelling, because you're now building equity on a larger asset while still keeping your day-to-day lifestyle mostly intact. Calculating this on your own with random online tools can get confusing fast, especially when you start layering in different loan options and how much rental income can actually be used for qualification. So I put together a free calculator that's designed specifically for this. You plug in the property price, the rough numbers for taxes and insurance, what you think each unit can rent for, and it shows you in plain English how much of the payment your tenants might cover and how that compares to your current rent. It's linked right down in the description. Don't let fear of getting it wrong or feeling like you're too early in your career stop you from at least exploring this. If you're serious about using your first home as a wealth building tool, not just a place to sleep, click the link in the description to use the calculator. And if you want to go deeper, book a strategy call with our team so that we can walk you through your numbers and your market together. We'll talk about which owner-occupied loan options fit you, which properties make sense to target, and where the stress points might be for your specific situation. And if you found this video helpful, feel free to subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.